Bernhard Bauer is a big fan of small people and things, not only here in the kindergarten.
Und das nicht nur im Kindergarten.
Minitec in Schönenberg-Kübelberg. The success story of Bernhard Bauer's company Minitec also began on a small scale, in the true sense of the word. With this aluminum part, a so-called profile fastener, it connects metal constructions without any drilling or welding at all. A customer of ours complained that the existing systems, it wasn't us who invented them, were too complicated and that they needed too many different connecting elements. Then we introduced and screwed together the first profiles, like our competitors, by drilling a hole here so that the screw head could be accessed with a key. But one of our competitors turned out to have a patent on the drill hole, and they demanded a license fee from us for it. My answer to that was, I'm not paying a fee for a hole. I'm not paying anything at all for it. Instead, I'm going to invent something that doesn't have a drill hole. Here, a screw is inserted, then braced with a second screw. The profiles are pushed together, and then the set screw is tightened. We gave it an ergonomically correct angle here, so that the mechanic doesn't have to keep re-engaging the key, but can tighten it up completely in one operation. The little fasteners go hand in hand with larger components like the ones being delivered here, aluminum profiles. In metal construction, profiles are parts with a certain cross-section. This one was developed specially for the Minitec modular system. Everything has to be a perfect fit. We've checked them all, every single pack. The parts come from all over the world, the profiles mainly from Western Europe. That's because we have high-quality standards for our connections, even if they are quite simple. The important thing in our system, if we're going to use one fastener, is that the channel and the drill hole are always identical. And that's why we need high-quality standards for our suppliers. In other words, the pattern we see here reoccurs again and again. Also, these clearances between the channel and the drill hole are to be found in every profile. That's the only way a modular system can work. It's the same with Lego, really. I mean, they don't have small studs and big ones. They don't keep introducing new stuff. That's the only way the system fits together. As with Lego bricks, the connection is always the same. But the components have different shapes and sizes. The profiles are cut to size exactly as required. Minitec sells its system to customers all over the world, or uses it itself to build things, all kinds of things. A machine like this, for example, it produces the small profile fasteners. A screw is screwed in, and the second one is then added. This system was developed by a student employee for his dissertation. 100 profile fasteners and the second screw to go with them are packed in each bin. And these bins are really something. Sensitive parts are often packed in these bins. This is how they're dispatched, you see? When the lid is on, the recessed grip can't come out. But you can look through here and make sure what's inside, whether or not the parts really are the right ones. So the operator can make sure, quite easily, that he has the parts available at his workplace. A machine developed from the company's own modular system. That's really practical. The workstations in the Preassembly department were also made using the company's own system. In Preassembly, Certain basic components are put together as required. For example, so-called carriages for movable elements. The items pre-assembled here are installed later on in larger units. Feet too are required again and again and have to be produced here. One man knows better than anyone else what is required at any given moment and where. He's the foreman here, and he rejoices in the sonorous name of Eduardo Vigo Mar. We're an international department. I'm from Peru. We have a guy from China doing his practical training, and we have our girls from Lithuania. And our boss also used to work in Russia, and now he's here with us, and that's good. We're all together, working in a good multicultural climate. The head of this multicultural pre-assembly group was Minitec's very first employee. Back then, he started out with Bernhard Bauer in a 3-room apartment. Well, everyone who starts here, technicians, purchasing or sales personnel, starts off in pre-assembly. That's so that they can get to know the products, because without that, they can't really do anything. You can't sell anything, and you can't buy anything either. So they start off in pre-assembly, then order picking, and then, at some point, they move on into the department where they're going to continue. One of the important things in our company is that it has something of a family atmosphere. You don't need so much red tape, because if you need something, the communication between departments is quick and easy, and I think that's really good. Our boss, too, for example, comes to visit us 2 or 3 times a week, and he knows everyone's name. I think that's great. We didn't have that in the other company I worked at. Before Minitec built new premises in Schönenberg-Kübelberg in 2009, the company headquarters were here in neighboring Waldmoor. Yep, it's managing 40 kilowatt at the moment. There are still production lines for photovoltaic systems and steel processing running here. Yeah, okay. Thank you, Robbie. Bye. We're talking thousands of a millimeter here in Waldmoor. The users are machine constructors of every possible kind, in this case mainly from all over Germany. Not so much export. Here it's always a matter of finding a solution for the customer fast, because these shafts are often needed for machine repairs. It's important to keep aluminum and steel separate because of the recycling, but also because steel fragments can damage the sensitive aluminum. Here too, a good many things are done automatically, but not everything. Hello, Herr Spooling. We've still got a traditional lathe here. Our Mr. Spooling specializes in things like this. If we need a one-off, no one can make it faster than Herr Spooling. This production area is a thing Bernhard Bauer is particularly proud of. This is the heart of the production line, the laser beam welding unit. In the field of laser beam welding units for photovoltaic systems, Minitec was in fact world market leader in 2011. Having said that, the sector has now collapsed almost completely since the German government cut the funding. Back in Schönenberg-Kübelberg, well, Minitec has been able to sell at least one more production line for solar modules. This major project is in its final phase. The unit will be going to Birmingham, England. The customer approached us in mid-August, and now we're almost finished. The system will be able to leave the works in 2 weeks. Here it's a case of individual components that we've already made on several occasions for this customer. So then it's basically just a question of the dimensions and of which parts of the system need to be combined. So let's say about 2 months, or up to about 3 if the system involves new elements. Bernhard Bauer has a visitor, Karl Scharschmidt, a friend of his from the time they were at school, is interested in solar technology. One of these always has. Yes, that's the wattage, I mean the power, but the voltage? Well, the cells are connected in series. It's the same as it is with batteries. If you connect up a few of them, one after the other, the more cells, the greater the output you get. So the wattage is clear, but the school friend works as a missionary in Kenya. That's interesting, being able to keep track of it all on the computer like that. You've never seen that before, have you? I mean, you didn't know it was that easy, that you can see everything in such detail, or that I can keep my eye on what's being built down there from here in the office. The building work is going on in Kenya's capital, Nairobi, a primary school in a slum and a gynecological clinic, and some of the funding has come from Bernhard Bauer, his wife Sonia, and Minitec. The projects are coordinated by the school friend. Well, we started building this primary school. Just 4 classrooms at first, then another 4, whenever the money comes in. That's how we started with the building. And Minitec has helped us a lot and financed 4 classrooms. I've been there a few times now, and each time I'm impressed, on the one hand, by what it has been possible to do with what are really very small amounts of cash. I mean, very modest funding, and on the other hand, by how cheerful the people there are. Although they really do live in dire need, they're always in a good mood. We do well to follow their example here sometimes. All the best, my friend, and get in touch again before you fly back. Back to the solar production line, soon to be set up in Birmingham. For the mechatronic technicians at Minitec, an assembly job in England is what you might call a short trip. Most of my travel is outside the EU. In fact, this will be the first job within the EU. For example, Asia, South Korea or Thailand. And so far I've mostly been to Africa, Senegal, South Africa, Tunisia and Central Africa. So you really do need a girlfriend who has some understanding for the fact that you're away a lot. If not, I don't really think the relationship can work out. That's why not everyone is prepared to go, I reckon. But I'm lucky. My girlfriend understands. The long-awaited commissioning of the assembly line. A test run before the system is sent to England. Commissioning sounds exciting, but in fact it's rather unspectacular. Is that it? Just sliding forward a few yards like that? Yes, I'm afraid that's it in this case. For us, it's often a rather theoretical business, because here we just can't react at all to any tolerance problems or fit problems caused by the series parts. Then it's a case of not being able to optimize until the equipment is actually on the construction site. That can be in India, Tunisia, China, or South America, and that's where we need to react to any changes in the material. Bauer and Böhnlein on their way to an important appointment. The new parts meeting, also referred to as the Council of War. Minitec's modular system grows with the success of the enterprise, and vice versa. The system is being extended all the time. And how do we tighten it up? Do we do this right? Ah, I see. When the lid's off, you can do it. Yes, when the lid's off, you can do it. It's no good if the mechanic needs 3 hands to do it. So, what has that part actually been designed for? That's a standard profile, like the ones we also use in other applications, except that with this new part, it now becomes a handle. Before this, we used to make a handle out of it, using the distance profile. But now, if we attach this part, we can produce handles of any size at all, and any length, for example, for machines or doors. There are many applications, for example, material trolleys on the workshop floor, or in the fire department, stuff like that, in their vehicles. People need handles everywhere. So that's why we've come up with things like this. In actual fact, the atmosphere seems thoroughly peaceful at the so-called Council of War. But it's not always like this. Well, we're engaged in a constant struggle with our competitors. and the Council of War develops the strategy by means of which we can hold our ground or even stay a step ahead. That's why we call it the Council of War. Minitec achieves half its turnover, a turnover that has already passed 10 million through sales of its profile system, and the other half with systems it has developed itself all over the world. The modular system may soon be complemented by a new generation. We need to print it out. Well, we can print one out to test. New parts that can be printed out for test purposes, thanks to modern technology. A 3D printer uses plastic to produce parts for prototypes. This is a cover for a profile. We made it on the printer, so we try it out in advance to see if the idea we had is about right. And parallel to it, the finished series part, as it's going to be included in the modular system. Going through just at the moment, we have a cover for a foot, which is the floor fitting for a profile in which it can be doweled. And that's a part that you've designed. It was designed using AutoCAD. Then it was scanned in as an STL file and printed out. Put in this way, the printing costs for a part like this, or rather the manufacturing costs for a finished part, are relatively high on account of the high tooling costs. And if anything goes wrong there, it'll be associated with enormous costs. Here, on the other hand, we can find out on the very first test whether it works as we intended it to or not. And then, if we need to, we can simply print it out again. In the trainee seminar room, the apprentices are just being made ready for their final examination as mechatronic technicians. The inductive sensor recognizes steel-cored aluminum, and the capacitive sensor recognizes steel, aluminum, PVC, acryl, glass, and wood. The trainees built the board themselves, from the Minitec modular system, of course. We built this using our standard Minitec system, all the individual components except for this element here. That's just a normal white board, and we use it internally for training purposes for mechatronic technicians and cutting machine operators. I'm working on the invention of a saw for the curved profiles that Minitec also offers its customers. Minitec recruits its young, up-and-coming engineers from the surrounding universities, French ones too. That's an important factor in its success. Yes, competition on the job market is tough as far as the demand for engineers is concerned. We cooperate closely with the Saarland College of Technology and Economics in Saarbrücken, and they in turn cooperate closely with the university in Metz. Then there's the University of Kaiserslautern and the Technical College of Kaiserslautern and Zweibrücken. Most of the engineers we have here come directly from university. I only really knew about Minitec beforehand because I used to drive past it. I had a talk with Herr Bauer on the phone to see about a period of practical training. When I was here for the training, he said at once, well, you can come and start. That's what happened at the job interview. I thought he probably meant in 2 weeks' time or something, but he said right away. So I came over immediately, started the Monday after that, and I've been here ever since. That's exactly how it happened. And how long ago is that now? That was 1995. That's how long I've been part of the team here, 18 years. Part of the team and always in the thick of the action, Andreas Böhnlein, also during the acceptance of this system. It will soon be in service at a cosmetics manufacturer in France. The customer has sent no fewer than 6 representatives. Everything is examined very closely. But what is the system actually about? In principle, it's about making bottles available in various different sizes for a pick-and-place machine. How many different types? Well, just 3 at the moment, but it can do up to 20. It can cope with up to 20 different types. The bottles don't just come in different sizes, they're also sorted and positioned irregularly. The system has to function perfectly for all the possible variants. Fonctionne bien, j'espère. Yes. It's working pretty well. In fact, it looks very smooth. Having said that, there are some problems on the test run after all. Well, we need to do something here with the tension of the belts. This belt has slipped, but that's actually fairly normal during the test run. We'll make some adjustments there, and then we can carry on with the test. It's certainly quite normal for a few things to be readjusted on site during the acceptance procedure. The procedure takes a whole day. Again and again, new queries crop up. So why did you press that button? Well, you can see here that another message is being displayed. The door isn't closed or locked. So how's the acceptance procedure going? Well, it's a very long job with this customer. They're very particular. They do various different tests in accordance with their own internal specifications, and that takes time. So are the statutory requirements in France different to ours? Yes, they're more stringent. Liability for the machines after delivery is stricter. Everything has to be documented very precisely. So the people have to be very particular in what they do. Andreas Böhnlein and Ulrich Wiegand take a look around in the showroom. The demonstration units have just come back from a trade fair, like this one, for example, which can guide a carriage round the corner using a patented method. Even with an automatic gearbox on board, the corner is negotiated to perfection, and it works on the customer's premises too. Automotive supplier of automatic gearboxes, for example, for a Bavarian vehicle manufacturer. You'll find us in all areas of industry. We're not restricted to any particular sections or sectors. Instead, we're into the tobacco industry, the pharmaceutical industry, the automotive industry, machine construction, the food packaging industry. That makes our job interesting because it's so diverse. The Klimmer company in Burgau, near Ulm. Here too, a system is deployed which was developed and built by Minitec. It automates the production of metal parts for the automotive industry. It used to be the case that there would be a worker standing at the machine for each step, each lathe, and for each phase of the inspection. For example, inspection, optical inspection, and eddy current. So there would have been 3 people working in this line. And now there's only one left? Yes, there's only one left now. And where did the other 2 end up? The other 2 have been given extra assignments. The employees are not laid off. On the contrary, we want to grow, so we try to optimize the deployment of our workers. The system feeds 2 metal construction machines with unmachined parts. Then the parts are tested and engraved. That station over there, we have an eddy current probe. It approaches the component, sets up an electronic magnetic field, and with that magnetic field, we can screen the part and see whether the microstructures in the material are defective, because we're talking about a heavy-duty component. And these blue cubes on the left and right, they label the components in principle, provided that the result was okay, with a serial number and a production number. In other words, they're given a timestamp. Sounds complicated, but in fact, it's a typical Minitec solution. The aluminum profile is always part of the basic modular system. These components are always used here. It's just that we use them in different quantities and combine them differently. The project managers are currently working on a second version of the system. Their aim is to ensure that this one works even better than its predecessor. That is the advantage that we have on account of the modular system. We can develop concept variants of all kinds. The idea for the new line was born on a beer mat, and we just went on from there. We said, how can we improve the system even more from the point of productivity, so that we also have possibilities for improvement with the processing centers, so that we can cut the cycle time down even further. Well, that's fantastic. Back in the Palatinate, Bernhard Bauer and Minitec sponsor all the schools and kindergartens in the Municipal Association of Schönenberg-Kübelberg. Here in Altenkirchen, for example, the children's early music education. To help organize their social commitment in the region, Bernhard Bauer and his wife Sonja have set up a foundation. Well, as we've already said, we had the music school before. but it was only possible for a few families to send their children there. Thanks to this social commitment, this donation, it really is possible now to make the whole program available to low-income families. It's really super, a fantastic setup. Hey, that was really nice. And do you sing at home too sometimes? With your mom? You have to teach her all the songs. Yes, in a way, of course, we have assumed a degree of responsibility for the community. The district of Kusel has some major problems as regards its demographic development. It's no use at all simply continuing to build new care homes and old folks' homes. We need to encourage young people and young families to settle here, and one of the important criteria for them is to have good schools and attractive kindergartens. That's one of the reasons we're doing it. And also because that helps us to find capable workers and gain their loyalty. Bauer's Maxime, provide for the future, but don't forget your own roots. It's important for an enterprise like ours to be aware of its history, so we've put it together in a PowerPoint presentation. Here's my wife in that 3-room apartment with a lab in the kitchen and a warehouse in the bathroom. But it worked out all right in spite of everything. I used to be head of purchasing in a large company, and the pressure there in middle management really is very high indeed. So I said it must surely be possible to run a company along more humane lines, and that's what we've managed to do here. And I must say, we've been pretty successful. In a large company, you always have any number of worriers and skeptics. And that means ideas that don't get carried through to the end. That's why I've got my own company. I always wanted to be an eagle, not a canary waiting for its grains. And well, now we can fly wherever we like. I hate green machines. Having once done a 6-month period of practical training in a smithy, where all the machines were green, I said, we're not going to have any green machines in my factory. And then we painted them all white. If a monthly record turnover is achieved in any of our companies, we say, stop. And then there's red wine, beer, and pizza. It's a pizza month. Then they write to me from England or Spain. This month, pizza month. Well, that would be easy enough if you only had a few people. Is there really such a thing as a pizzeria of that size? We have to order from 5 or 6 pizzerias so that they all get delivered at the same time. After all, they can usually only manage 30 or 40 in one go. But we do it anyway, and I feel it's very important to keep the tradition going. In the early evening, things go quiet at Minitec, except on certain very special days. It's going to get pretty noisy here this evening. That doesn't matter to me. I'll be knocking off in a minute or two. Ah, that's all right then. Okay, what I need now is a trombone. But he doesn't need the trombone to intimidate his employees. No, Bernhard Bauer plays with them in a big band. Just for Fun is its name, and they rehearse regularly. Like many of the colleagues at Minitec, the boss plays a musical instrument. After all, we're here in Schönenberg-Kübelberg, in Kusel's musical hinterland.